Welcome to No Broken Legs. I am your host, Evan Belfiore. Joining me in-house tonight, Jimmy Champ, my co-host. Jimmy, how are you tonight?
Hey, man, we're styling, profiling. That's all we're doing over here. Let's talk some sports.
Right on. And joining us on the phone is our very good friend from college. He is downtown, Ron Brown. Ron, how are you this evening?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Thanks for letting me come on here and, talk some sports. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it has been a long time since we've talked sports. That's why we had to do this.
Absolutely, man.
Well, the big current news right now is that Aaron Rodgers has officially entered the Brett Favre stage of his career in Green Bay. Reports said the Packers wanted at least 2 1s and a 2 in a trade, and apparently they're trying to trade Jordan Love. Jimmy, just what the hell is going on, and does this resolve in any way?
I think it does. I think Aaron Rodgers has proven to be incredibly petty, and when he decides what he is going to do, he's going to do it. I mean, there's so many tales out there of dealings with his family and other situations. Like when he feels wronged, he doesn't get over that. I don't know what the hell the Packers are doing. There was the short rumor that maybe they were also trying to trade Jordan Love. Then who the hell was going to play quarterback? Because I don't think Aaron Rodgers, it doesn't seem like he's coming back. Like, we've seen a couple quarterbacks do this. This is the Carson Palmer route, right? Like, this is the only way to get out of the situation that I'm not okay with. I need to go somewhere else and play. This is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it just seems pretty insane, Ron. How do you see this playing out? Do you think Rodgers is done in Green Bay too?
It's at the point where it's hard to really see the Green Bay Packers without Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback. But that being said, it's also hard to kind of see, how they were with Brett Favre and then, see him in a Vikings uniform. So I think there's one thing 2020 taught us, that absolutely anything can happen. But I think, I mean, when you really think about it, when you kind of peel it back a little bit, a lot of this is based off of even though I agree with Jimmy, Aaron Rodgers is really petty for this, and it's really big time diva for him to do something like this. But this is the power that he has, so if you got it, why not use it? But this is really all about the Packers just not really surrounding him with talent that would take them to the next level, and especially when you compare to other teams in the league. You look at Pat Mahomes has
all of them.
Everybody, and Tom Brady goes from New England and he goes to a team where you got Pro Bowlers coming in out of nowhere and Hall of Famers. You got Gronk, AB, Mike Evans, Godwin.
Yeah, and Antonio Brown's your 4th or 5th option on that team. So
yeah, and they actually drafted some receivers well. And all Aaron Rodgers has is they drafted Aaron Jones and that was good, and they got Devontae Adams. So bravo for that. But can you get him an elite level tight end? Can you get him someone that's like George Kittle? They're bringing out the ghost of Mercedes Lewis out there.
Who wasn't even that good when he was there.
Yeah, I mean, they just don't give him a lot. So I think he's going to end up being there just because I don't see how you can get him out and teams forking over enough. Is it going to be one of those situations where you get to training camp and a quarterback goes down? And does the team have the value to be able to pay for him? That's a steep price to get Aaron Rodgers, but you got to be that's got to be your missing piece. You're just missing a polished quarterback.
So let's say Rodgers goes back to Green Bay, plays in another Super Bowl, doesn't win another Super Bowl. Maybe is this level of good for another 3 to 4 years. They go back to one Super Bowl, they don't win it. Was the Aaron Rodgers 10-year generation basically an entire failure, sans the Super Bowl?
Wow.
I mean,
it's tough to say it's a failure because they did win a title, but it does feel like they should have won more.
That was a long time ago. Aaron Rodgers is so much more polished now. He was pretty raw then. He's so much more polished now, and they just can't get the pieces right. I mean, if you look at how horrible those defenses were when, Colin Kaepernick looked like Gale Sayers running down the football field in some of those games. it just feels like it's such a failure. And you can't say complete failure because they have the one Super Bowl. But if you look at the teams that have won Super Bowls on Aaron Rodgers' watch, it's kind of crazy. There are not a lot of quarterbacks, I don't feel, as good as Aaron Rodgers who have won Super Bowls other than the GOATs since Rodgers' last Super Bowl.
I mean, I kind of look at it like if you compare it to like something similar, even though it's not the same sport, but LeBron James' tenure in Cleveland. Like if you think about how long LeBron was here in Cleveland, you would think, man, they should have had like 3 or 4 championships while he was here. Now there's, other circumstances that play into that. The Cavs didn't really surround him with talent. That's similar to Aaron Rodgers. They didn't surround him with a lot of talent.
No, they did not.
And then, of course, when they get the talent to do it the one time, everybody gets injured, and then the next times, Kevin Durant comes over and makes Steph Curry like the second best player on the team, which is like kind of like a cheat code. So, but it's a similar situation where you look at it where like you have this alpha dog player. It's clear. Like I think like when you just look at the way he plays the game, Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback, talent wise. Tom Brady is the GOAT for quarterbacks when you take everything, the leadership, the ability to like kind of make players better around him. When you take that into consideration, but I have a hard time calling it a failure just because like I don't want to just think of like, someone playing that successful at that high level. He's got a pretty good win percentage. They have won in the playoffs. It'd be different if they were getting bounced every year in the playoffs, which they're not, in the first round, I should say. But they're not. And, you kind of look at it like someone like Peyton Manning, where he couldn't really kind of fully get over that Tom Brady hump that they had to. Every year they had to beat the Patriots. That was like one of their big things that they had to do. So you would think he should have had a couple more, but I wouldn't consider it a failure. But it's not meeting up to the expectations that you really had for a player of that caliber.
Just a quick point on Aaron Rodgers. You mentioned Tom Brady, and one of the things Tom Brady brings is his teammates they'll run through a wall for him. And I don't necessarily feel that with the guys Rodgers plays with. Like it doesn't seem like that's how they feel about him.
Yeah, they don't love him. And I don't think that's necessarily something that you have to have, but like I think it does help. It absolutely helps. And whenever you compare players like Tom Brady to like Aaron Rodgers, we always have to kind of take a look. I mean, he also has Bill Belichick. So that's just, that's also a cheat code in his advantage. They set up such a fantastic system in, New England, which allowed him to flourish, which really is not even close to being what's going on in Green Bay. I think it's really Aaron Rodgers has carried that team. Even when Tom Brady was out, they still have been kind of successful, with backup quarterbacks. They've still looked like a superior football team in a lot of ways. But, when Aaron Rodgers goes out of the game, I mean, the wheels fall off, nothing works. And you've got the best wide receiver in the NFL on that team too. So,
yeah. I was kind of bringing up that running through a wall thing as a way to transition to Baker Mayfield and our Browns, because I think a lot of the guys on the Browns would run through a wall for Baker Mayfield. I think they love him. And I think, or they're beginning to love him. So we just had what pretty much everybody says has been a really great draft and offseason in total for the Browns. Ron, who are you most interested in seeing on the field? Who are you looking at the most closely as we go through the offseason programs?
It's Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, we've known about him for a long time. Not a draft pick, but obviously brought in as a veteran and a playmaker on this defense, an additional pass rusher. We've followed him for so long. We all remember that hit he had against Michigan in the bowl game, which was just like, this was the most painful hit that ever, but we all liked because it was against Michigan. So I think that will be the most important position because I feel like even though I love the pick of Greg Newsome, I love the drafting of a linebacker. So I like that improvement, and you're going to get some guys back on defense from injury. I think it takes a while for those rookies in the secondary to kind of get up to speed. And we all know how much of a monster Miles is. The ability to have someone on the opposite end of him that can also wreak havoc is just valuable. And it gives those secondary guys a little bit more cushion because now they don't have to pass protect. They don't have to, be in coverage for forever, because they know there's only a certain amount of time now. And especially with Miles, last year, obviously it was the COVID that kind of took away his conditioning. And we all know he's in fantastic condition 99% of the time.
Well, he's doing 6 foot fucking box jumps with 900 pounds on each shoulder. I mean, his workout videos are just must-watch TV.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. But yeah, to have him and Clowney on the same field, I mean, that's something that's going to really help elevate the defense, and it's going to take some of the pressure off of those defensive rookies that are going to come in here, and even someone like Greedy Williams, really doesn't have a lot of snaps under him. Somebody like him is really going to give them a great point to start off from, where they don't feel like they have to make so many plays. They're not going to press. They can learn the system, get comfortable in their job, and do it while they have these veterans up top doing it. And it gives you ability to kind of, especially with the 17-game schedule now that we're going to have, now Miles is going to have more time to rest. You don't have to wear him out.
Yeah. Jimmy, what signing or draft pick do you want to watch the most?
So I'm actually going to I'll go to the other side of the ball. I'm actually going to say Odell. It could absolutely be the secret weapon, just a player that makes this offense, if it's clicking, it's going to be pretty hard to take away all the weapons. And I think Odell could just set it off. I think then it looks more like the Chiefs. It looks more like a high-powered offense, even more so than it did. But we also know maybe it just breaks it all apart. That's what worries me. Baker's maturation, in my opinion, this last year was amazing. I think he did take control of the team. He showed leadership. So does that mean now he's not going to try to force the ball to Odell? Can he now, when he gets in the huddle now, I have to assume Odell was kind of the alpha in the huddle. Has that changed now? Is Baker going to tell him, hey, I'm not coming to you on this throw, but I need you to sell it really hard. I need you to sell the screen, sell the smoke screen. Let's get it out, fake it. I'll throw it on the other side of the field. I hope that's where we're headed, because I just think there's so many weapons. You're only going to have this firepower together for a couple of years. Take full advantage of this core. I really don't know outside of the Chiefs who the best team in the AFC is. But I think the Browns roster says they're really close, and I think Odell could send it up or down either way.
Yeah, and we said it last week. Pro Football Focus currently has the Browns as the second best roster in the league, which is pretty crazy to think about. For me, I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to pick a unit, and it's the secondary.
Yeah, no,
because they were awful last year. I mean, they were just terrible. So if those guys can even just gel together and just be average, it'll make the Browns legitimate contenders. And if they can really get together by the end of the season, oh boy, watch out.
So while I will say he played well in the last handful of games on the season, every secondary player we drafted a cornerback and a safety, everybody that's coming back healthy. The second those two boys were drafted, they were better than our safeties. Right then. Right then. They're better than Sendejo the second they were announced as Cleveland Browns. So it's just addition by subtraction. Just getting him off the field, he was so bad. He could not understand zone coverage. He was just left in the dust. These guys are already better than him. They're already better.
He turned incompletions into completions, and I saw him on at least 2 occasions turn interceptions into almost completions, which was just it defied logic. Getting back to what you said, Ron, about Jadeveon Clowney, do you think the Browns are hoping he can kind of fill that void that's now left by Sheldon Richardson?
I think he can do that and maybe a little bit more. And I also think that they're kind of hoping that there's some type of path where Sheldon Richardson can come back. Just not at a price tag which they were hoping for. What Sheldon Richardson wanted. I feel like Sheldon Richardson wanted to play here. I feel like he mildly underachieved because I thought that people were expecting him to make plays like Miles made when Miles wasn't on the field, or even when Miles was on the field. And I just don't think he's that type of player, whereas Clowney's more of a disruptor. I feel like he's that type of a player. So, yeah, I feel like he will fill that void and, do a little bit different than Richardson, obviously, a little bit more athletic, more twitchy. But definitely, I agree with that statement 100%.
Yeah, and Richardson was paid like a star, and he just wasn't playing like it. That's why he's not on the team anymore. I think that's just all it boils down to. They've been super. I listened to some of the sound on 92.3 from the front office, and they just can't stop saying nice things about him. So they're trying to woo him, Jimmy.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also think the Takk McKinley signing, I think, is huge. I think there's great value. There's great value there. His production has been really good. And the Joe Johnson signing, like both of those, you got great talent at a good price. The defensive line actually has depth now. And I agree with both of you. He did not perform. He was a fan favorite, but he did bring some energy, but he didn't perform to what they were expecting to. I agree. They were looking for Miles-type plays out of him, and it wasn't there. And you hope between McKinley and Clowney, maybe you can get that production between the two of them.
Okay, so kind of taking a step back from just the Browns and looking at the NFC North in totality, Jimmy, you were down on Baltimore last season. They did actually miss their over-under by half a game. They had to come back with all those wins late in the season to just take second. Do you see the Browns passing them in the AFC North?
Yes. Yes.
No hesitation?
No hesitation, yes.
I like the confidence.
I don't believe that their draft was very good. They addressed all their needs. I don't think any of the offensive pieces they drafted or anything they've done in free agency is going to create better opportunities for Lamar Jackson. This is just, I don't think Harbaugh knows how to coach at a successful level at what he's gotten Lamar. Like, the play calling was so stale. You keep asking him to make throws he's clearly not comfortable making. Like, from the snap, you can tell he doesn't want to throw that 15-yard out to the other side of the field. He's not comfortable doing it. And so many of their throws end up going away from him like that. I don't think the offense is going to get any better. The defense, I don't think, has the pieces to stop what the Browns' offense could be.
Ron, you like Jimmy's optimism. Do you share Jimmy's optimism?
I do. I think the only thing that's making me a little bit nervous is obviously, even though, the Cavs won a championship, the Browns have won a playoff game. So like I just have this nagging feeling in the back. I'm waiting for the bottom to fall out of it. But like, I feel like, like Baltimore didn't improve enough to really overtake the Browns. Like, if you look at what the Browns' weakness is right now, it's that secondary, even because we don't know what they actually have back there.
Yeah, it looks good on paper, but we have to see it.
Exactly. And Baltimore they kind of remind me of the Patriots in this way. They can't draft wide receivers.
They sure try.
And they've been trying, and they haven't got one. They're bringing in Des Bryant. That was only like 8 seasons too late. They're getting any type of free agents. They pushed hard for Juju. I think there's somebody else that they pushed hard for. So they know that's not what they know, that the receivers they have now aren't really working. I think you have, like, obviously I like Mark Andrews. I think he's their best offensive weapon, pass catching. If we're not including someone coming out of the backfield,
no, he's the guy that Lamar trusts the most. When they need to make a play, they look for Andrews. But kind of getting into what Jimmy said, Ron, do the weapons really matter if Lamar can't make the throws, or if Lamar won't make the throws?
And I'm on the fence on whether or not I think it's whether or not Lamar can or can't. I think it's like kind of the chicken or the egg. Like, when you look at those receivers, like, they're not really helping him out, and they're not really that talented. Like, he doesn't have, like, you almost need to see somebody like elite out there to be able to evaluate what he can actually do. Because I was going to make throws to Mark Andrews, and I'm like, those look good. But then when he's throwing to Miles Boykin or Hollywood Brown, it's kind of like,
true.
So I don't know whether or not it's all on Lamar. I want to give him some credit. I mean, I think that he's gotten better. I don't think that he is accurate to the point of like how Baker is, or Mahomes, or Aaron Rodgers, or Brady, one of those guys. But like, I feel like he's better than what he's shown in the passing game, and they just don't have somebody out there. And I also agree with Jimmy. I don't think like Harbaugh is an elite coach. I think he knew enough to kind of like, we need to change something to get this guy on the field because he's giving us the best chance to win over an aging Joe Flacco. But like, I don't think they have enough to really pass the Browns. So I am optimistic it's them, more so than like some of the other teams in the division.
I think it's a good point because there's been a lot of really good receivers drafted the last several years, and Baltimore has somehow missed on all of them.
So do you think if Julio Jones was actually available, is there a price too steep for Baltimore to have paid?
Ooh. Well, what would it have taken to get him? What are you thinking of? At least a first and a second?
Let's say we're talking Atlanta and Baltimore. So let's say we swap firsts this year and I get your first and your second next year.
Well, this would all be for 2022 and 2023 now. So
yes. I think you'd have to, unless it was even if it was the Ricky Williams offer, you might have to take it for Julio.
Well, I mean,
because he's such a good route runner, and I think that's what Lamar needs. He needs somebody who he can see him coming out of the break before he's out of the break and can actually get a feel with the wide receiver. Because I agree, he looks so uncomfortable, and he just doesn't want to make the throws to the wide receivers. Maybe it is just because they're not talented enough. But I think if he was actually available, I can't believe they didn't just go balls to the wall to try to get him.
I think they might have. That might have been the other receiver that they did go after. I know, like I said, Juju was one of the guys that they did push hard for. And there was somebody else that they did make a play
maybe.
For.
I hope it was Julio.
I mean, we're saying that, there's reports that Julio is out there, but none of that's really been confirmed, nor will it be. But I still don't understand why Atlanta would look to trade Julio Jones. I still don't understand the base theory there.
There's a lot of stuff like you don't really. I mean, like the Ravens, it's kind of really hard to figure out what they are trying to accomplish. I mean, they did trade Orlando Brown to the Chiefs. So they watched the team that they're going to probably have to beat this team at some point in the near future to get to a Super Bowl. They traded them their best offensive lineman when clearly that's one of the things that the Chiefs really needed. So I don't know why they did that.
They created a weakness on their team while helping solve a weakness on their opponents. And they made their opponent's weakness a strength now.
And then, in my opinion, they vastly overpaid for Villanueva. It's kind of like a knee-jerk reaction to the mistake they made before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I get that. But I do believe they needed somebody like Julio like that. They need to go get that ball type of guy. Because you get somebody like Devontae Adams, you get like a DeAndre Hopkins, those guys. The ball doesn't
dare I say a Jarvis Landry?
I mean, I love
when they need a first down, that's the guy they go to.
Yeah, they do go to him, but like I'm not picking him as like one of my top 5 receivers. I feel like he is a key guy. He's more like a souped up Edelman to me. Like that.
I think that's a very fair comparison.
Yeah, he's more of a quantity over quality.
And if you look, I think Baltimore kind of knows they need a big guy because they've been trying to draft some of these big guys. Like I think Boykin was a big guy, and somebody else they drafted was a bigger guy too.
Yeah. Who was the? No, he played in Arizona and he played in Baltimore. He was the guy that just you throw the ball towards him and he's going to catch it.
DeAndre Hopkins.
No, not that one. Anquan Bolden.
Yes.
Yeah, they need somebody like that.
That's who they're
supposed to be like that.
That's the thing they've never really been able to replace. Is that possession guy that can just it's 3rd and 7, he's going to run an 8-yard pattern and he's a good enough route runner and he's big enough to just bully his way into position so that he can make a catch.
Yeah, they definitely need something like that, and they probably had him at one point, but just not when they actually had. Yeah, they did have him. They did have him.
Yeah, they had him.
Yeah, it's just, it's kind of wild that we're to this spot where probably the piece Baltimore is missing the most is a pass catcher, and they drafted a pass catcher early, and he's still like the 8th or 9th best pass catcher in the draft. Like it was just kind of wild, like the talent, or at least the perceived talent coming out, like they had a good draft and they should be rewarded for picking the right position, but they are like 9th on the list of the right player. Like, I don't know. They just don't seem, I just don't feel like Harbaugh builds the offense. Like, with the exception, I'll say there's like, when I watch a Baltimore game, there's maybe like 5 to 8, like Lamar Jackson specialty plays where either it was some kind of funky design or Lamar just decided I'm going to be Louisville Lamar here for a couple minutes. And I feel like the rest of the time when you watch a Baltimore game, the playbook doesn't look that different from Joe Flacco's playbook. Like, I don't think they've really embraced what they should probably do with Lamar Jackson.
I think that's probably accurate, and this would be the year that if they don't unlock it, it's not going to happen. I am interested that we've been talking for a while and nobody has really brought up the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ron, are we throwing dirt on the Steelers a little too early?
They're probably like a little bit like Jason Voorhees, where they're not really dead just yet. I knew they weren't going to be able to really fix their line enough, so like I knew that was an issue through the draft. They wouldn't.
But if they don't fix their line, does the Harris draft pick even matter?
It does, because I said the one player I don't want. There's 2 players I didn't want them to get. I didn't want them to get Sewell, which I knew they wouldn't get. But like out of all the running backs, that was the one that I didn't want them to get. Because the running backs, honestly, I think James Conner's been overrated. Yep. All their backups are overrated too. So I didn't like any of those guys. I think Najee Harris is better than all those guys already. James Conner just doesn't seem to want it. He seems to want to lift a little bit more, and Najee Harris seems to want to be a running back, and even with a bad line, running backs can make a difference. And I think part of the problem was like one of the reasons why the Browns were able to do them. Pittsburgh couldn't run the ball last year. I mean, that was their big issue. They were not a good running. They weren't a good running team, and part of it was the line, but the other half of it was they didn't have a good running back there. And, this kind of fixes that problem for them. I think the real problem is Ben, and I don't think the players, like you were talking about, like with Tom Brady, the players will kind of run through a wall for him. I don't think the players will necessarily run through a wall for him, and I feel like he's older now, and like you don't get better when you're older usually. Like Tom Brady is still successful, but he's not better.
Yeah, but Tom Brady took care of himself. Roethlisberger not.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, he can't take those hits, and he's not adapting. And Tom Brady's been able to kind of like adapt and modify his game too. So yeah, like I feel like we're throwing dirt on them a little bit early. Like they're still a threat. They still have some good talent on that defense. But the running back, getting Harris does concern me. But I feel like, and the receivers are obviously like super talented. I feel like they have one of the best wide receiving cores in the NFL. But like without that line, and I feel like an aging Big Ben, I feel like even if they were still able to hold it together for this year, they don't have that guy coming in behind them. They don't have a backup quarterback on that roster. And you saw what happens when
Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges aren't lighting a fire under you there, Ron?
Not at all. Not at all. They might as well be playing football at Tennessee.
I do want to just reiterate the whole guys don't really like playing with Roethlisberger, and part of that probably is that he has a weekly show during the season where he just bitches about how his team lost games or how he brags about how he's the reason that they won games. That may have a little something to do with his teammates not being big fans of him.
I mean, he just kind of doesn't give off that vibe, like where you're like, I want to play for that guy. And what you were saying, like somebody like Baker, who I wasn't a fan of Baker when the Browns drafted him.
Neither were we.
This show did not endorse that draft pick.
That was it.
Yeah, I didn't endorse that draft pick. I didn't think that he was like Johnny Manziel. I know a lot of people said that, but like, I just didn't like his approach to the game, and like I wasn't seeing. There were things I did like. Like I heard that he was like a gym rat, and like he kind of had a chip on his shoulder. But like the rabbit ears thing was something that really had to get out of it. He needed to get out of his system. And this past season, I think that's kind of happened. And I feel like he's improved because of it, also having a legitimately good head coach, like somebody that kind of, as a professional, knows what they're doing.
They have an adult in the room now, so that it's
Exactly.
not, because the year Freddie Kitchens was in charge, they did not have an adult in the room, and OBJ, pretty much his personality took over the locker room, so they weren't. There was just all sorts of little things went off and just went missing because Freddie Kitchens wasn't looking at the little things. He was. Oh my God. They were running plays. They didn't practice during the week, for God's sakes. Like, why do people keep bringing up Baker's second year as if it means anything? They were running plays. Jimmy, they were running plays they hadn't practiced.
Yeah, well, I truthfully believe like Freddie Kitchens the year before, when we go through the head coaching turmoil, I honestly think Freddie Kitchens thought what Ken Zampese was doing up in that booth with Baker Mayfield was super easy. I think he thought, well, hell, if that dude can do it, so can I. Because all signs point to Zampese was the one calling the plays. And after what we saw with Freddie as head coach, I can't argue with it.
That's the proof. That's how we know Ken Zampese was calling the plays. That's how we know.
Like, I truthfully think that's what it was Freddie was like, hell, it can't be hard, boys.
Who knew that getting a head coach that had literally no coaching experience beforehand would be a detriment to a professional football team?
It's just, for everybody who thinks John Dorsey was great, just remember Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah.
So let's just round out the AFC North here and quickly talk about the Bengals. Jimmy, we called it. And I told you when we did the podcast last week that it made too much sense for them to draft a lineman, which was why I was certain they were going to draft a receiver, and that's what they did because they're the Bengals, and they fucked it up again.
So here's where I think it gets wild. There were certain picks in this draft that in the first round that you knew were going to happen, and you just weren't sure about them. I knew Jacksonville was going to take Etienne with their second pick. There was no doubt about it. Etienne is going to be their second pick. They don't even need him. They had a good work out of their running backs last year, but you just knew they were going to take him. You knew if Harris was there, Pittsburgh was going to take him, even though they shouldn't have. I will never like this draft pick. This guy could end up being better than Calvin Johnson. I don't understand how the wide receiver for a year and a half, who was the best wide receiver in college football, then they evaluate it on this other level and say, no, you can't draft him. You can't draft Smith. You can't draft him. For his size, he's a great route runner and he catches every ball that goes to him, but you can't draft him because he doesn't meet these standards. If you're going to take a wide receiver over an offensive lineman, at least take the best fucking wide receiver.
See, so this is where Jimmy and I are going to disagree. I love the player. I think I'd take Jamar Chase every single time over Devontae Smith. I think he's going to be a good player. I think he's going to be I think his comparison is going to be somewhere like Deshaun Jackson. And I feel like if he's a harder worker than Deshaun Jackson, then you're going to get maximum output out of him. Then it's going to be a good pick. But with that being said, Deshaun Jackson hasn't played a clear game in a long time, and that kid is skinny. Now, I was wrong about Kyler Murray so far. Kyler Murray looks pretty good, and I this guy looks like somebody's little brother out there on the field. But Jamar Chase was easily the best player, wide receiver in this draft. I think we just had a little bit of time away from seeing him.
No, there was a receiver drafted in the third or fourth round that weighed 148 pounds or something. So there was a lighter guy taken, but he's the second lightest guy.
And Devontae Smith, let's remember, at the beginning of the season last year, Devontae Smith wasn't even the best wide receiver on his own team. I mean, it was Jalen Waddle, and then Waddle got hurt, and then Devontae Smith went off. And I'm not saying this to take anything away from Devontae Smith, but you better be beating Pete Warner when you get him covered. Beating Pete Warner and beating what's his name, Sean Wade. You don't get credit for that. Sean Wade was out of position. He's not as fast. He should have been getting beat. But I say that there was a terrible pick by the Bengals. I mean, I agree. I listened to your guys' podcast. I'm just they're 100% right. You draft the lineman because you need to protect Joe Burrow. And you already have two really good wide receivers on your team.
Yep.
You have Taj Boyd and you have T. Higgins. I wasn't even counting A.J. Green last year. I think A.J. Green's like got one foot in the glue factory already. So I wasn't even thinking about him. But
right, and Mixon should probably get double the catches he gets anyway.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. Yeah, you have some talent already there, and you can get a player like Jamar Chase, or you can get a high functioning player as your number 3 because you only have so many balls to throw. I mean, you can only throw it to so many people. But if your quarterback can't stand up,
yeah, if it doesn't matter how open he can get down the field, if it takes him longer to get downfield than Joe Burrow can stand up. Because he's got guys like Myles Garrett breathing down his throat. That's just not going to work. I just don't. It's the Bengals, and I think we should just move on.
Yeah, it would suck because I do love the player. I do love the guy. I love the way he played the game. He's not first guy off the bus type of player. That's Kyle Pitts. Yeah. That guy should be coming off the bus every single time, shirt off, just walk in and walk out. Yep. You won. But I really love Jamar Chase. And I hate the fact that he went to that team. But hopefully Joe Burrow, won't last long enough for him to make him a star player.
So we had 5 quarterbacks taken in the first 15 picks and even third there. And I just want to kind of go through all 5 and just talk a little bit about where they are in their situation. And, Ron, will start with Trevor Lawrence goes to Jacksonville. Urban Meyer's his coach. This is sort of the hand-picked pairing. Is Lawrence in a position to succeed?
It's really hard to tell. I think I agree with Jimmy about getting Travis Etienne. You didn't really need him, but I feel like you're trying to make him comfortable.
Yeah.
You're trying to make Trevor Lawrence comfortable, and so
which
you're
is
giving
smart.
him and he's a good player. Let's not forget he is a good player. He's got a lot of miles on him for a college player, but he's a good player. So I do like the Trevor Lawrence pick. I think it makes sense. It's really hard to tell whether or not a college coach is going to be able to succeed, especially the older ones like Urban.
Especially somebody like that who's never really lost.
Yeah. And you got someone like Cliff Kingsbury who is younger, is a little bit more relatable to players. He can kind of, he has that kind of figured out. I feel like those are the guys that might be better, and we just haven't seen too many college coaches go from the pros. From college to the pros and be successful. I think Urban's best asset will be the fact that he does seem to be adaptable. If you look at the quarterbacks he's coached a lot of talented quarterbacks, Alex Smith, Tim Tebow, and he's kind of figured out a way to. Tim Tebow has the ugliest throwing motion I've ever seen, and he made it to the league. So Urban will figure out something that he can do, and with talent like Trevor Lawrence, he'll be able to put him in a pretty good situation to succeed. And I believe he has had his staff is filled with some good players. So I think that's the right choice for him, and it was a no-brainer. Everybody knew.
Yeah, everybody knew they were going to take Lawrence there. Jimmy, do you think with Urban Meyer taking over and do you think we're going to see even more of the college-style offense brought into the NFL?
Yes, I think he'll do a good job of it. I think completely opposite of Baltimore. I think the Jaguars have already they've signed players in free agency to do exactly what Trevor Lawrence is good at. I love it. You got Marvin Jones Jr., who seems to have a lot of the tools. For fantasy purposes, there's weeks where he's chalk at wide receiver. Marvin Jones Jr. is really, really good. And then they got Philip Dorsett. I think that's another good signing. He's still kind of raw. He's more of a speed guy, but that still gives you, let's open up the field. And now I can give the ball to James Robinson and Travis Etienne in the middle of the field and let them do work. I think Jacksonville's going to be really good. Last year I was down on Indianapolis. I'm going to stay down on Indianapolis. Tennessee's a mess. Houston, we're not going to talk about Houston.
Houston's a disaster.
We're not getting into that.
They're the new Browns. Browns.
But I think Jacksonville. I think they really have a shot from going worst to first in their division.
Wow.
If Jacksonville won the division, I wouldn't be surprised. They signed good defensive talent, had a good draft.
And I think they're going to be a running team.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence can spin it. We've seen that. but I expect them to be running the ball a lot. Not like to Baltimore level, but they will be running a lot.
Yeah, they signed Carlos Hyde also. So now you've got somebody that can give you the 3 yards.
Yeah, 3 yards a carry, baby. He's the new Leroy Horde.
Yep.
You need 3 yards.
If you need a yard, I'll get you 3. If you need 5, I'll get you 3. The next quarterback that came off the board was Zach Wilson. And Jimmy, I think you put it best last week when you said the Jets got rid of Sam Darnold to draft Sam Darnold. So, Ron, do you agree with that sentiment? What are the Jets doing here?
I never like when a quarterback that I never really heard of, and I watch a lot of college football. I'm not at the point like in college where I would watch pretty much every college football game, but like I watched a lot of college football, and I never heard his name mentioned like within 2 years, and then all of a sudden he's here. Like we knew about Trevor Lawrence like the day he got there, and we knew about Justin Fields the day we got there. I never knew about Zach Wilson, and he looks like he is in the Devontae Smith eating club. So he's got a good coach. And did you see the video? There's like a video of him standing next to like a couple of receivers that are in the draft, and like obviously they're all black, and they're like throwing up peace signs or their area code or whatever. And Zach Wilson looks like he is on another planet. Like he looks like he got off the Golly G bus and has no idea what's going on. And it's just wild. I just don't know how this is going to work out.
He's the Dave Chappelle whiteface character, but like in real life as a quarterback.
Yeah, he looks lost already, and I just don't know if that was the guy to go with. And Terrence Sala is a pretty intense. Like I'm a big 49ers fan as well as the Browns, and so I love Sala. And I'm just it seems like this is a strange sign off for him because he seems like such an ultra masculine guy. He's a smart guy too, which is helpful. He's not like a meathead like not Matt Campbell, whatever the guy is that
Dan
Detroit
Campbell.
guy. Dan Campbell, a meathead, not like one of those type of guys, but he's a smart guy too. And so, like, this doesn't seem like a fit, for what I would expect as their head coach to have. And like, I just don't see it. Like, it's just like a 1 year that he did. He had pretty good numbers against mediocre talent, and he just didn't pop. To me, like he was good. You were like, oh, he's got a little bit of game. The one time I watched him, I said, oh, he's good, but I was trying to figure out why he was going in the top 3 or 4.
I don't know. There's just a fetish for quarterbacks that have certain height and weight and run around in a certain way and can throw a ball hard enough, and it doesn't matter. If they can actually play the game at a high level, they can just do it against teams that aren't very good. And I think you kind of agree with that, Jimmy.
Yeah, I just think this is weird because, like we say we really shouldn't evaluate Baker Mayfield with the Freddie Kitchens year. And with Sam Darnold, it almost feels like you shouldn't be able to judge him on his career at all. Like,
I will. He's not good at football.
But, okay, he's probably not as good as he was drafted to be. But the thing that was wild to me with this pick, and I'll concede to Ron that the first wide receiver that came off the board was the best wide receiver in the draft. There were so many players that they could have drafted to just make Sam Darnold's life easier that I don't think the quarterback you just drafted ceiling can really be that much higher than Sam Darnold's ceiling. But you could have taken another offensive lineman like, we did a lot of research on those 4 offensive linemen last year. We looked at them hard because we're like, which one do we want? It seems like we got it right, but you could have taken Sewell and given yourself another offensive lineman so your poor guy's not seeing ghosts. There's playmakers you can draft, and you just don't do it. And I just don't understand starting over again. Like it doesn't make sense to me. Isn't it enough to start over with a new head coach? Now you're just gonna, here you go. You've never faced NFL competition. You've never played against a really good defense. Here you go. Come on.
They're doing that thing we saw the Browns do for all those years. A new regime comes in, and now they got to bring their quarterback in because they don't want this other quarterback that hasn't done anything for 2 years because then they'll be saddled with him. And It's just the Jets are in that rotation, and it's an abyss. And I'm glad it's them and not us anymore.
I agree.
Thank God for that.
So the third quarterback that came off the board was Trey Lance. And Ron, you're a 49ers fan, so I'll give you a chance to respond here in just a second. But Jimmy, you hated this pick. The floor is yours.
I still hate the pick. I'm nothing. In 10 years, if I have to eat crow on this one, I will. But I really don't think that's going to happen. I don't understand it. I can't understand it. It's such a crapshoot to me. I don't know what Trey Lance's ceiling is, and neither do they. They don't even have an idea. Like, they have no clue. This is a guy, he was a backup. He's a backup quarterback in high school. So he didn't really play in high school. He went to all the quarterback camps that you go to. He was ranked 11th out of 11th in all of them. The only offer he gets to play quarterback is where he went. There's no way you've got enough tape of this guy to go, yep, this is worth our future. We're just a quarterback away, that's all. So
they traded a lot of assets.
That's a lot of assets to move up to get that pick. And I don't understand. I don't really understand why they took a quarterback to begin with. I think Jimmy Garoppolo would have been fine. But I don't understand not taking Justin Fields. I don't even think Ron can convince me that Trey Lance was the right pick.
So what do you think of the Trey Lance pick, Ron? Are you happy? Did you want them to take Fields?
I'll tell you what, I'm happy about Trey Lance because I thought they were going to get Mac Jones. And that's the only reason why. I was thinking you didn't trade all these picks to move up to get Mac Jones. Please tell me you didn't do that. Obviously, I wanted Fields. I thought the Jets should have gotten Fields. I thought that was like a perfect fit for them.
Yeah.
I thought it made too much sense. But when my expectations were that they were going to get Mac Jones, Trey Lance seemed to make sense. I already mentioned Tennessee on here once. Like, if Tennessee can't get a quarterback, if you can't get a scholarship to play quarterback at Tennessee or Michigan, then I'm going to start questioning your abilities later on, because those teams draft quarterbacks horribly or recruit quarterbacks horribly, and they need someone, and you couldn't even get one there. But, obviously the level of competition, we saw how Carson Wentz did. He looked good early, but I don't know what's happened to him. So it does look a little bit rough for him at this point. And I think that with Jimmy there, you don't have to tear the, packaging off of Trey Lance just right yet. You can have this system where you're like, look, he can have a package or two. We can ramp him up. That defense is going to be better just because guys that were hurt are going to be back. So,
Yeah, there's so much talent on that defensive line. I think Trey Lance will be okay. That's it. I think he'll just be okay.
He can't be okay. He can't be okay.
Yeah, I understand that, but I think that's what he's going to be.
No, he can't be. He has to be
more
better
than okay if you're the number 3 pick. You got to be.
No, I mean, I'm not.
Be a franchise.
I'm not disagreeing with that comment, and I'm not disagreeing that they traded up more assets than for a quarterback that's just okay. But I don't think he's ever going to be better than Russell Wilson. So he's never going to be the best quarterback in his division. And I mean, Kyle Shanahan can work some magic, but I don't know if he can work out enough magic to get Trey Lance through the playoffs to get to a Super Bowl. I just don't think that can happen.
Here's my thing with Kyle Shanahan, and I'm going to steal from Mina Kimes a little bit on ESPN a little bit. My personal opinion, I think Kyle Shanahan does really good with quarterbacks. He can max them out. But he is the quarterbacks that he seems to be in love with. He seems to have this love for Kirk Cousins, and I can't for the life of me figure out why, because Kirk Cousins isn't that good, So when he's in love with a player, I can't really trust his judgment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, I think he's going to be. I don't think he's as bad as Jimmy thinks he's going to be, but I think that But I don't think he's going to. I just don't know if he's going to be the end all be all for them. If he's going to be that guy for them. But if they give him a chance, if he can get some time, if Jimmy, the best thing for him is for Jimmy to play well. Because if Jimmy play well, then he's not on the field. He just gets to sit and learn. And I have trust that, like, with some sitting and learning with that defense on there, playing against that defense in practice, playing with that running, he's going to have a great running game behind him, and he is mobile, so that will be the biggest asset for him.
I think they're going to Mahomes him, and he'll sit for most of the first season. I don't think they're looking to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. But moving on to the next quarterback is our boy, the Buckeye, Justin Fields. Ron, you said you would have drafted him if you were the Jets at number 2. Do you like the situation he's in Chicago with Matt Nagy?
Yeah, I do like that one. And this is actually one of the trades that I actually called one of my buddies. You know him too, Brandon McElwain from our Kent State days, is a huge Bears fan. And he was begging the Bears to trade up and get him. And I told a bunch of friends, I think the Bears are going to come up and try to get him. And that's sure enough what they did. Nagy's a good offensive coach. They have a decent running back in Montgomery. They have Allen Robinson.
Is Nagy and is Montgomery, like, are they good?
I think Montgomery's
like
good.
Talent. I see the talent. Like, they look like they have talent. And he has, like, a couple of weapons there. Not all elite, but he's got Allen Robinson. I loved Allen Robinson when he came out. And I feel like he gets better every single year. I feel like he's an underrated receiver. So, like, I feel like they have a pretty decent system. But, like, if you look at their quarterbacks that they've had, Trubisky, no. Nick Foles,
Trubisky was a disaster. The Nick Foles experiment made no sense from the beginning. Do you think they're going to start I'm blanking on his name, the old Bengals quarterback. Dalton. Yeah, do you think Andy Dalton's going to end up playing do you think he's going to end up starting the season and they're going to give Fields some time on the bench to watch?
That could help Fields, but, like, right now, like, I feel like he's good enough where he can come out there and make a difference right now. I feel like if you have enough talent on offense and you have a young quarterback, the best thing for you to do is have him get out there and play. And so, like, Andy Dalton is not good. He should be a backup.
Is Justin Fields better than Andy Dalton right now?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't know the playbook, but, like, let's say that he knows the playbook. Then
yeah. Okay.
He just has more ability. His arm is strong. And I was really interested in how he was going to be when he came from Georgia. And some of the stuff I read about him was, like, he wasn't as accurate. Well, anybody that's watched Ohio State games, he's really accurate. I mean, like, he doesn't get talked about like he's accurate, but he is really accurate. He is mobile, and he has a cannon for an arm. So, and he's got heart, so he plays hard. So I feel like he should be. If he's not starting at the beginning of the year, he should be before the end of the season.
Jimmy, do you think Fields is in a position to succeed?
I think so. I love the weapons. I think the running backs are good. I think Allen Robinson, I think he's shown potential. He's shown flashes to be one of the best wide receivers in the league. Never had the chance. I guess now we really find out, like, how good Nagy is, because you've got a convertible now. You didn't have that. You didn't have that before. I'm going to continue to be anti-Mitch Trubisky. I have a very good friend who thinks Mitch Trubisky, for fantasy football and real life purposes, is a good quarterback, and I don't believe either. Like,
he's a decent fantasy quarterback if you're in a crazy league like we are, but he's just not good. He wasn't good. We can only draft
quarterbacks that grew up in Ohio.
He was as bad, if not worse, than Blake Bortles. He was bad.
Yeah,
He couldn't throw the ball more than 10 yards in playoff games. Like, they didn't trust him to throw the ball past the second level of the defense.
Nope. I mean, I think Fields is very close to having the best. Either Fields or Lawrence, I think, came away with the best situation. And I like the team, and Nagy's going to be, when he gets a chance to play, I don't think there will be any handcuffs. I don't think there will be anything out of bounds. Do what you do. I think that's how it'll be. I'd like to see him be successful. I think, we keep hearing Ohio State quarterbacks aren't successful at the next level. And I think that just shows how good Ohio State is as a collegiate program, because they probably weren't NFL quarterbacks, but this guy is. Like, I mean, Justin Fields has the tools. He looks so good on the football field, and he's a worker. He wants to be good. I think he's probably the improved version of Jameis Winston. Like, I think this is an upgrade. That style quarterback, I think he can be really good.
Now, I was going to say the other thing that helps Justin Fields is that Aaron Rodgers might not be in his division anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
That helps. So if you throw out Aaron Rodgers,
that does help.
He might be one of the best quarterbacks in his division.
Yeah, that division is a mess. I mean, who the hell knows what the Lions are, and the Vikings were so night and day last year. Hard to say what they are. So that is helpful for him.
Yeah, and we had one last quarterback come off the board, Mac Jones. Jimmy, the Patriots' problem last year with their offense was they had problems with Cam Newton at quarterback, but they also don't have any weapons. So what exactly does Mac Jones going to use to be successful there?
I think Mac Jones, I think this is probably the best place Mac Jones could land. I was fooled. I thought he was going to San Francisco. I was fooled. I mean, how could you not be fooled? Every report was Mac Jones. Like, as wild as it is, that's what it was. But as we've talked about, it gained nothing because Trey Lance still would have been on the board. Even if you told everybody you were drafting Trey Lance, nobody.
All the credit they get for the smoke screen. It was a smoke screen that did nothing. Congratulations, you still got the guy you were going to take.
But now this is an opportunity. Like we've talked off air a few times. We've had the Josh McDaniels talk. I think Josh McDaniels is a very good coach. I think he was feeling himself a little too much with Tim Tebow. I think he thought, I'm such a good play caller. I'm going to show everybody I'm going to win with this guy. I think with whatever talent they have, I think he'll design plays to get guys open. And I think Mac Jones showed, if you can give me a window and give me guys that are open, I can throw the football to them. I don't think there's much more to Mac Jones than that. But he proved in Alabama he could do that. You give me a window and you get somebody open, and I'll put the football on his numbers. And I think that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, but the offense that he's coming into has worse receivers than he had last year in college.
Oh, no.
I mean, that's
No
definitely
it's
definitely going to be a factor in this. And I mean, Ron, is Mac Jones even going to play this year, or is Cam Newton going to start the whole season?
I'd be shocked if Mac Jones doesn't play because I feel like
me too.
Cam Newton is a very specific tool that you're going to use. And I think that to Cam's effort, like, he's not a great passer, but what all the other stuff he does is fantastic. They obviously just don't have the tools. They don't have the receivers. They can't draft receivers. The best receiver that they've drafted was a college quarterback. So that tells you all you need to know about how they are with wide receivers there. But I don't know, like, how accurate, like, are your guys even getting open? Naeem Hines, not Naeem Hines, which is whatever his name is. I can't even remember any of their names.
Well, they signed the two tight ends, so it looks like they're going to try and recreate that, Aaron Hernandez, Rob Gronkowski offense that was so effective with the two pass catching tight ends. But I mean, we can, New England can say, oh yeah, we signed these two guys and we're going to try and run that same offense, but Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez were both really good football players.
Let's be. Aaron Hernandez was a better football player than Rob Gronkowski. Hernandez was so good. He was so good.
But what they could do as a pair was just the stress they put on defenses made everything so easy, and it's not easy to just recreate that, even if it's on the same team.
You're right.
Yeah, I think he's going to play. I don't know how. It's really hard to gauge, like, what New England is and what their mentality is. And plus the fact that their two quarterbacks are just so different. They couldn't be any different. I think there's a meme going around with Cam with a shirt off flexing, and then there's one with Mac Jones smoking a cigar, which is, God help Mac
It's
Jones.
like the Chris Farley, Patrick Swayze, Chippendales SNL thing.
It is.
Like, I had fully believed, like, the Bears put a cramp in my mocks because I really believed, like, from what I saw with the Patriots offense with Cam last year, I really thought they were going to draft Justin Fields and just completely, like, embrace those old, like, NCAA 98 playoff or the college games. Some of those playbooks, like the veer and the near and the far. Like, I saw that happening. I really thought that was the direction they were going to go because the play selection was really creative. Like, when Cam was healthy, he had guys open. He made throws. He ran when he couldn't. I really thought that was going to be the direction they were going to go. But then when you draft Mac Jones, that makes me think I was completely wrong. They never had that idea because you can't have that idea and then draft Mac Jones. So,
yeah, and I also think that last year, like of any starting quarterback that was hurt by not having a training camp, it was Cam Newton.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
like I don't know, and so like I think they really want to see is that because they know how good he can be, and I think they really want to see. But I think they got Mac Jones because they also know, like you said, they need someone that can hit the open guy, and Mac Jones can do that. It's whether or not they can find those open guys on the field, because I just don't think they have them on the roster, even with the tight ends. I just don't know. You have to be able to make plays on the outside of the field. And if you look at the teams that are successful, they have someone that can make the plays on the outside of the field. And the Patriots just don't have that.
No, they don't have anybody like that at all. And that's going to wrap up our podcast for this week. Ron, thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure.
I'm glad I was able actually to come on, and anytime you guys want me back on, I would love to be back on. This was a lot of fun, much better than work.
Absolutely, Ron. The next time you're in Ravenna, hit me up. We'll go down to the Big Dog and we'll scare some white people. Okay?
I'd rather not.
Come on.
But I will get a beer with you somewhere, just not there.
Jimmy, thank you for joining us as well.
No place I'd rather be, brother.
All right, and thank you for listening. For these two gentlemen, I am Evan Belfiore. Thank you for joining us here on No Broken Legs.